He's the man to do the damage. As he looks for another headshot.
People said, oh, you know, you've just done like 2 hours talking about the Premier League and who you think's going to win and do well and what you think of the signings and everything. You should pick the overall table and let's compare it. And I was like, I can't be asked because I'll have to go on fucking Tier Maker and find one and no. Anyway, I was up last night. I was doing fuck all day of work, you know, one of them. And I thought, well, yeah, all right then. I'll find a Tier Maker and get it and we'll do that today as well. I'm going to give you my Premier League predictions. Here's the tier list maker I went for. It's got obviously all the teams in the Prem. You can see them there. It's in night mode to stop the zoomers getting upset. I don't like to look at a white screen. Now, I'm going to stick to the shit I said yesterday. But here's the problem we got. As of about to sit down and do this stream and recording it, I'm watching Twitter and I'm going, oh no. I just went on a big rant about how I thought Chelsea were going to not be in the top four and were going to be really underwhelming and they need to get they don't have a striker, they don't really have a goal scoring threat and their defence feels brittle even though it's got fantastic names and they've got a great squad. And then obviously what's happening now is, literally, this is breaking, I don't know if it's accurate or not, but they appear to have hijacked the De Jong move from Man United, who have been literally courting this player the entirety of the off-season. And now Chelsea is swooping in and they want to get him and Aubameyang, who only just went to Barcelona, obviously from Arsenal, on a free. Like, apparently this now appears to be the move. Now, listen, De Jong looks absolutely amazing in La Liga. I saw a statistic today, which I don't know if anyone can confirm this for me. Apparently, he's only got one assist and no goals in the Champions League from something like, you know, however many campaigns he's had in. So, whatever, fine, you know. But he does look like a fucking incredible talent. And if Chelsea get him and get Aubameyang, I might have to revise my views. But that hasn't happened yet. So, for the purposes of this, I'm going to stick to what I said originally. And obviously, the transfer window hasn't closed. And maybe if we need to, we can come back and revisit it. Also, I think... Why do I think he would leave Barca? As someone rightly points out in the chat, yeah, I've seen all of the absolute insane fuckery with Barcelona and how they might have even fucked themselves up even more by like creating a shell company and all of this stuff that they've been doing to try and bolster their finances. I mean, this is why when we did that stream about, you know, the Super League, which obviously collapsed, that these teams were trying to drive. Barcelona are one of the biggest proponents of that because they need to be in something like that because they've been so financially imprudent, you know, for so long, and they've put off paying the piper for so long. They're in all sorts of problems right now. Like, I mean, they're just staving off administration and everything, you know? They're massively in debt. And so, obviously, if they can get a pretty lucrative move for a player that they certainly don't need De Jong to challenge for the title domestically, yeah, they'll be tempted. And I can imagine getting Aubameyang off the books. He went there on a pretty big salary because obviously it was a free transfer. And, you know, I don't think Aubameyang's particularly instrumental to them either. It's going to be pretty good. So, look, anyway, we'll get to this league table. And as I said, obviously, transfer window hasn't closed. This isn't definitive, but this is based on where we're all at now and to confirm what I said yesterday. First up, let's get Bournemouth. I believe they're rock bottom of the table. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. I think they're going to really, really struggle this season. I don't care about what they did in the first game. They just don't have a lot of quality, and out of the teams that came up, I look at the transfer activity in the squad they already had, and I think they're not gonna have a Brentford-esque season, right? It's not going to be like that for them. They don't really have that caliber of players. They don't really have that caliber of staff. I think they're rock bottom of the table. Now, at the top, Liverpool. Liverpool, for me, are the title winners. Now, this is controversial because everyone is feeling really, really good about Haaland at City. I do think Haaland will get the Golden Boot. I don't think it's hyperbolic. I saw Roy Keane after the games on Sky Sports. He was saying, like, he thinks he could get 30 or 40 goals in a Premier League season. He's that good. And again, that might be getting a bit carried away. But I think Golden Boot winner, I just feel like with City's midfield and the way Haaland plays and the runs he makes, how clever he is in the box. I think he's going to be clinical. He's also their designated penalty taker because his penalties are practically unstoppable. So he's going to get 25 goals, for me, and will be the Golden Boot scorer. Liverpool. I know a lot of people are down on this pick and thinking City are going to do 3 in a row. I think about where City were at the end of the season and how good they were. And I think about where Liverpool were, and I'm thinking about the Charity Shield that happened, or the Community Shield as it's called now, showing my age there. I thought Liverpool looked really... And, Liverpool are a big game team. I like the signings they've made. We went over that yesterday. I think they're going to do it. I know they've got to draw with Fulham on the opening day, and this is kind of creating a recency bias that, they're not going to be good. That, again, was down to my man. And listen, Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to be a problem for them, but I think that's a problem that'll get addressed at some point over the season. I'm sticking with my pick. I'm sticking with Liverpool. Obviously, that means we'll get this one out the way. City in second place. I mean, the title race is only really between them. But for me, it's very easy to pick the top 4 based on what I've seen, based on the transfer activity, based on the managers, based on the overall performance. Arsenal massively impressed me in pre-season. Obviously, they had that. I mean, that performance against Chelsea. I know it's a pre-season friendly, and we shouldn't get carried away. That performance against Chelsea was sublime. I watched that game, and they absolutely fucking smoked them. I mean, it weren't even close. It was ridiculous, and I think Arsenal have made all the right signings. They've done the best bit of transfer business in the whole, out of every club in the transfer window. Gabriel Jesus as a number 9 looks unbelievably sharp. They've got a fantastic midfield, one of the best midfields in the Prem for me. Then they've strengthened, and I think Arteta has got rid of all the dead wood. He's got a very cohesive team. He's got players that look up to him and respect him and want to play for him. There's a very good vibe around Arsenal right now, and I've got them 3rd for me. And I think there'll be a period of the season where, they'll shock a few people how good they actually are and how many results they get. So 3rd for me. And this is where I guess it gets maybe a little bit surprising. We're going to get to Chelsea in a second, but I've got Spurs in the top 4 as well. I think ever since they brought in Kulishevsky's given him another attacking dimension. He's feeding some of the best strikers in there. Obviously, they brought in Richarlison. I said they didn't really need him. I think he's a bit of a luxury signing, all things said. But I think their front 3 is as good as anything in the Prem. I love the high tempo where they play. Conte is a fucking baller. I love him. I loved him as a player. Love him as a gaffer. And again, I think Spurs have done good business. All right, so that's the top 4. I feel pretty good about that. That's how I see it anyway. Many of you would probably swap City and Liverpool. I don't know how many of you really think Chelsea are going to get in. Again, watch this space. But let's go back down to the bottom of the table, because this is where it's going to get contentious. Bournemouth rock bottom, and I'm having Everton second from bottom. Everton have done some good business in the last couple of days. They did some business overnight. They've just made a signing, new lad that's coming today for 30 mil, a midfielder. Obviously, Connor Cody, that could have had a move to Newcastle. How the mighty have fallen. Former Wolves captain, now he's going on loan at Everton. He's good, but I just think Frank Lampard, for me, I loved him as a player. I loved what he did at Derby. I want him to succeed, but he's a fucking fraud. End of the day, he's a fraud. He's one of these guys. It's the classic, you were a good player, so here's like unbelievable chances for managerial success. He, didn't cut the mustard at Chelsea. Tuchel was a clear upgrade. Derby, might have been punching above his weight, but no pun intended. But when he come to Everton, not only is his team statistically worse than Benitez? Benitez having one of the statistically worst iterations of Everton in recent memory, and somehow Lampard managed to top him. I think I sent Vince, I see Vince in the chat, I think I sent you a screenshot, didn't I, Vince? On Steam, how bad it actually was. He's not got the chop. He's reliant on trying to be an inspiring figure, and if that doesn't pass, then I don't think he's got much going on, honestly. Everton was so lucky to stay up, in my opinion, last season, and then they've gone and sold Richarlison, and they've not only not replaced him, they've also lost other players that they're going to be reliant on. It's actually shocking. They had a player get a broken leg in the opening day of the season. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is out for 6 weeks, bare minimum. They desperately needed him to stay fit. And again, he's going to be a crock. I mean, I remember saying probably a season ago when the Saudi PIF bullshit was happening at Newcastle, I was like, we were linked with him, and I was like, that'd be great if we can get him fit or whatever. But he's just one of them players. Like, he's just like post-Newcastle Andy Carroll. He's crocked, unfortunately, and he's going to keep picking up knocks and niggling injuries. It's just not going to happen for him, evidently, as a player. So Everton needed to keep him fit. They're without him for 6 weeks. I have a feeling that's going to extend. It'll be complications or whatever. And then you really look at where they're going to get their goals from. And it's like, what, fucking Rondon? I'll tell you as a Newcastle fan, Rondon is dog shit. And you can thank Benitez for taking him to your club. So, yeah, I feel pretty good about Everton going down this season. Next in the relegation, a little bit controversial as well, because they've made tons of signings and they've done loads of business. They've signed something like 16 players in the off-season. They're desperate to stay up, but I just don't think they're going to do it. I got Forest going down. I think it'll go down to the wire. I think this is going to be one of those like really exhilarating relegation battles between maybe 4 or 5 teams. But I think Forest just don't have like a cohesive vision. I couldn't even tell you what their best 11 is. I doubt their manager can either. Yeah, they're not going to do it for me. I think Forest is going to go down. So let's go up to who's going to comfortably get into Europe with 5th and 6th. Well, this is a tricky one. I'm going to say, obviously, Chelsea are in here. They're going to miss out, but they could be 6th. But I guess for the purposes of this table and with signings to come, I'll leave them in at 5th. I'm all right with that. And then I think, still think West Ham. I'm not really sold on this as a pick, but just looking at the other state of play of the league, it's like outside of the top 5 teams, it feels like we've got a pretty mediocre bunch of teams in the league, honestly. Not a particularly strong season. A lot of teams have gone backwards. Teams like United or whatever. They've got a solid team. West Ham's problem is their squad is pretty fucking thin. They really need to keep their key players fit. Antonio is the absolute Christ-like figure at West Ham. If they do not keep him fit, then all bets are off. But, as I said yesterday, I like the business they did. I think that Samaka that they brought in, he's a good signing, but he's a long-term project. He's 23, he's Italian. He's going to be learning about the Premier League, the pace, the way defenders play you in the Premier League is very different to how they do you in Serie A. So, yeah, he's gonna have a bit to learn. But overall, I think West Ham can have a solid 6th finish. I think as I said, they've kept all of their, big name players that you want. Souček's still going to be in there. Rice is still in there. So yeah, I think if they stay injury free, 6th is fine. 7th has its own little spot. Who is going to be 7th? This is really hard because it should be United. But United are dog shit. United are absolutely dog shit. I think they're going to struggle. I want to put them 8th. But when you look at the field that we've still got, it won't be Leicester and it won't be Southampton and it won't be Leeds. This is what I was thinking when I was coming into the stream. I was thinking about putting Wolves there. I know loads of people are super down on Wolves and saying that, nah, they got no strikers, they got no goals in them, you know, blah, blah. See, you're all typing it out now. But I don't know. They kept all their big name players. They tailed off towards the end of the season, sure. But I like them. I like them. I like their squad. I like their players. I like the way they play football. Yeah, I haven't been able to say that about Wolves for a long time. But I guess we're going to just drop Wolves down a place for now and stop everybody going nuts in the chat. Like, if I was ballsy, I would put Newcastle 7th. But the problem we've got, as I said, is we haven't signed a clinical striker. And Callum Wilson's not going to stay fit. And Chris Wood is dog shit. So sad we've got Chris Wood. But, all right, look, we'll do the safe thing. United somehow get 7. I'll just talk a little bit about United. People don't realise how big a rebuild job it is on there at that club. They don't realise how bad the squad actually is. I went over it yesterday, but I'm telling you, it's probably the worst Man United squad in my lifetime. It is not an exaggeration. Like, if I read off their registered Premier League players, like, it will upset you if you're not really conscious of it, right? So, obviously, De Gea is their goalkeeper. That's fine, right? Like, you know, he's getting on a bit, but not really. He's pretty dynamic. What's interesting is Eric Ten Hag sort of doesn't seem to like him. They had a shouting match in a pre-season friendly, which was a bit weird. He didn't like the way that De Gea was distributing the ball and was shouting, like, what the fuck are you doing at him from the sidelines, quite visibly. But, you know, De Gea is still a class keeper for me. Victor Lindelof, these are the defenders. Victor Lindelof, Eric Bailey, Phil Jones, remember him? He's still at United. He just lurks in the background now. You've got Harry Maguire. Like I say, all problems in this team stem from him and stem from him being the captain. Just absolute colossal cunt and just blinded by his own hubris to his limitations. And he's a bottler. I've got nothing good to say about Harry Maguire, honestly, like, except that, you know, in the bottom half of the table, he'd look like a relatively capable defender, I guess. But you're talking about, you know, highest levels of Europe, top 4. He ain't there. He was massively overpaid when they picked him up, for like 80 mil. You know, if Van Dijk was a cheaper signing. That's what you want from a fucking world-class defender. Harry Maguire's got none of those attributes. Varane being a bit of a flop surprised me a little bit, but I don't know. I think maybe he's got his eye on a summer move at this stage. Who knows? Varane, Dalot, Luke Shaw, which everyone was tearing into me saying that. Actually, I don't hate Luke Shaw. I think he's a decent player, but people don't agree. And then Wan-Bissaka. And it's just like, it's pretty poor. Like, that is a poor selection of defenders. You know, when you think about like legendary back fours at United, you know, you think about when they had, like, you know, centre-back pairings like Ferdinand and Stam, or you go back to, like, you know, Bruce and Pallister, you know, Dennis Irwin, left back, you know, or the Neville brothers left and right back. Like, it's just fucking, you know, Vidic. I know, like, none of these players, by the way, like, not a single name I have read is fit to lace any of their shoes. It's, like, so unbelievably sad, like, just how bad their defensive unit is. And then you get to the midfield, right? And you go, well, surely United have, like, a quality midfield. Well, at the moment, people are going, Fred's had a renaissance. Fred is dog shit. If Fred is in a starting lineup for United, you know they're in trouble. Like, he might have had a couple of good games towards the end of last season. I don't give a fuck. Right? Fernandes, he's looked a little bit off the boil lately, but he's still mustard. I like him. He's a United caliber player. I'm all right with that. Scott McTominay, who they keep trying to put in there. I don't know if people saw the highlight reel of Scott McTominay in the opening game of the season. Obviously, they lost to Brighton. Scott McTominay is dog shit. He's absolutely terrible. Not a United caliber player. Arguably, by the way, not even a top half of the Prem table caliber player. just a disgrace. Like, I would drop him immediately. I don't know why they keep playing him. They're trying to mold him like some, Keane figure, like a ball winner and a distributor. He's not got any of the class, caliber, or smarts. He's caught out of position all the time. He can't find a pass all the time. His tackling is suspect. Like, he goes over the top of the ball way too much. Like, yeah, he's dog shit. Like, Scott McTominay is a really average player. I always felt bad about Van de Beek. I think there's a way back for Van de Beek at United, especially under Eric Ten Hag. So watch this space. I always felt like a bit sad that he never got more play. I really liked him in the Dutch league and thought he was going to be a good signing, but it's never clicked. But, obviously he's had some heart problems as well. Wait and see. But then, again, like, where are we at now with the midfield? Like, Christian Erickson was arguably United's best player before Ronaldo came on and changed the game a little bit. Christian Erickson, for me, as I said, I don't like it as a signing for a team of United's caliber. I think a 30-year-old with heart problems you've got the pacemaker brothers between Erickson and Van de Beek. Like, every training session must be, everyone's terrified. And it's like, 30-year-old free transfer from Brentford, had a history of heart issues. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I would be fucking worried about something coming up. I would be worried about, a doctor telling him you can't keep playing, he gets dizzy or whatever, something flags. So, you can't rely on him, like, to carry your season. I think that's a reasonable thing to say. It might sound a bit callous to fucking, talk about their heart problems so brazenly, but, it is within a sports context. And then, obviously, for the rest of them, the more attacking midfielders, Ronaldo, Sancho. Sancho was fucking terrible. And I know he's not had a lot of play, but he was played all pre-season. Ten Hag seems to favour him. Sancho couldn't pick a pass. Like, he was really bad in that game against Brighton. And when you consider how good he was, I wanted him in the team. He's getting his games. He needs to step it up, or he's going to be a really big, expensive flop. Ronaldo doesn't even want to be there, and they're just desperately trying to deflect moves away from him. But Eric Ten Hag and him aren't getting along. I mean, how much is that relationship going to be frayed moving forward? And then the strikers, Rashford, Martial, Diallo. It's the squad is like unbelievably bad. And it's not like they haven't spent money. It's not like they've been consolidating, like the Glazers haven't wanted to spend money. It's just that they've just blown it on shite and not actually paid attention to what the team really needs. And Alanga, sorry, my bad. But again, these are not United set the world on fire names, are they? So I think United has a lot of problems. I think I'm being generous for 7th. I really do this season. For 8th, I'm going to go with Newcastle. I think we're good value for a top half and mid-table finish this season. Pre-season was really good. Over the last 2 seasons, our transfer policy has been unbelievably solid. Definitely punched above our weight quite a bit in terms of, just being able to attract these types of players. We keep Callum Wilson fit, we could be the team that jumps into 7th. I really do think he's that important, but I don't think he'll do it. I think Guimaraes is going to be one of he's going to really take the world by storm, and we'll have some Spanish teams coming in for him at the end of the season. But our defence looks really, really good now. Botman is fucking class. Pope in nets is going to be an upgrade from what we've had. I'm feeling pretty good for 8th this season. For 9th, I think we'll go Brighton. It's not just based on what they did, beating United at Old Trafford for the first time in history. I said it yesterday, I'll say it again. I think Graham Potter's one of the best managers in the league. Really like him, really like what they're doing. They've lost £80 million worth of quality player, and they still look like they're going to just fucking be the same old Brighton. Really hard to break down. Welbeck led the line amazingly against United. Like, if I told you this, well, you probably would believe it, wouldn't you? But Danny Welbeck had Harry Maguire on fucking toast in 2022. That sounds like such a mad thing to say, but, if Welbeck stays fit, I think that's like an added bonus they didn't have in previous seasons. I just think, they've got a great gaffer, a really solid, good squad that's cohesive. They've got quality in areas that you might not immediately think about. And now, having, sold Cucurella for 60 mil to Chelsea, having given that up, they've got money to spend. It's there if they want to spend it. You might see them do some activity before on deadline day. But then the fact that they're so calm and composed about their transfer policy tells you all you need to know. Brighton are calm, cool, confident. I'm all right with it. Now, I'm going to leave Wolves there. Oh, am I? I'm going to leave Wolves at 10th, I think. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Next up, I'm going to go with, I think, Palace there. They've actually, again, in terms of the signings that they've made, I think Palace have, done all right. They've got some players there. Sad about Benteke going the meme lord. But I think they're going to be, pretty just, it's the same Palace you get last season. Definitely too good to go down. Not good enough to challenge for Europe. Not good enough to have a sustained season. Always one or two injuries away from total oblivion. I like what they've done so far. They're a bit of an unremarkable side in a lot of ways. But, I'm all right with Palace being there. So that's 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. So we got two more to go in here. Who's it going to be? That's where it gets tough. Because there's so much about Leicester that's... Fofana looks like he's going to Chelsea as well. 12th in the league. Oh, this is the hardest choice. I need to look at the Brentford squad before I commit. All right, well, let's do this bit. Who's first? Who's finished? Who's going to get sucked into a relegation battle and finish just above the bottom three? So for me, I'll put Fulham in at 17th. I think they've got enough quality in the side. I think Mitrovic will get in the double figures this season. Already got a point on the board against tough opposition. It's all good. Definitely could jump up a few places, depending on how it goes. But I think there's enough quality in Fulham that they're going to stay up, even though it might be tough at times in the season. I got some serious bad vibes about Southampton. I think they're going to get sucked in, and they will be the team that has a really, really hard time. And then all this raving about Leeds, by the way, because they spent money, all of their players are super suspect in terms of Premier League experience. So I actually think I'm going to put Leeds there. I think Leeds will struggle again this season. I'm not sold on the signings. We already saw what happened when, Bamford was out for a bit and stuff. Yeah, I think Leeds are there. Then that means who goes next? It's probably Brentford. And then that means, it's the crapshoot here in the middle. I think if Leicester keep the big three that are being talked about as leaving, we're going to see, obviously, Maddison is having, lots of bids around him, including from Newcastle. Fofana looks like he's going to Chelsea. Reports today were that there's a £60 million bid that they've turned down, and then they're going to up the bid again, Chelsea, and go in for a third bid for Fofana. The reporting was it's going to test Leicester's resolve. And obviously Tielemans has been linked to Arsenal and some other teams. So if Leicester lose any of those players again, they're going to be in this block here. But I think we put them here. And again, it could be above Palace. Could be above Wolves. Just depends. And then Villa. I said I got Gerrard on fraud watch this season. Villa looked terrible in the opening day of the season. Going forward, they look bad. A little bit suspect and soft at the back. They got players that I want to do well. And, listen, I love Stevie G as a player. And I thought he did a great job up at Rangers, even if they are the enemy. But at the end of the day, Stevie G is on fraud watch this season if Villa can't get a sort of coherent attacking narrative. They were very hit and miss, last season. And again, if you look at the money that they've spent, all that Grealish money went almost as soon as it come in, and then they've spent again. There has to start being an appreciable return on the pitch. Like, you can't keep dropping 100 mil a season. Like, Villa are deceptively one of the biggest spenders in the league. They spend money and spend money and spend money, and what have they got to show for it? When was the last time, Villa sort of like really, got in amongst some of the bigger names in the league? It hasn't happened for a while. Whatever, I'm not really vibing with it. But basically, here it is. This is what I think is going to happen. I feel pretty confident about a lot of these picks. There's definitely question marks in that 8-13 one. That is like obviously the hardest one to gauge, I would say, in the whole league. The big hot ones, the molten lava hot takes, having Everton getting relegated this season, not a lot of people are going to fuck with that. Basically, it's Scouse Christmas, my table, isn't it? United out of Europe, Everton getting relegated, and Liverpool winning the league. And I'm not even a Scouser, but that's what I have picked. That's what I think is going to happen. So I think other than that, everything else feels kind of right, feels self-explanatory. Maybe Fulham staying up is a bit of a pipe dream, because obviously we know how hard it is to, stay in the Prem when you've just come up off a season. But I think they'll do it. I really liked the squad, watching them in the Championship last season, and I really like what they did against Liverpool. So yeah, there it is overall.